It was a crazy weekend full of insane performances. Welcome back to Established Dominance Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Ding, and we'll recap the Sunday games and figure out how to move forward as we get closer to the fantasy playoffs. Playoffs? Playoffs? You know it. It's coming. As always, we'll take a look at the injury reports from Sunday first. DJ Moore got banged up this weekend. He returned from his injury, but he still needs to be monitored. Mooney, he exited with a hamstring injury and didn't return. McConkey, he had a shoulder injury in the game. More to follow. T. Higgins, he potentially re-injured his back as well. He'll need to be monitored. Other than that, it was a fairly clean week this week, honestly. Let's jump into the Sunday games. And we'll start off with the best team in the NFL, the Lions hosting the Jaguars. That's right, there's no debate now. The Lions are number one. Now, they crushed the Jags. They dropped 52 points on them. But they did lose Anzalone. That's bad. But hopefully, we'll get him back before the playoffs. Now, I told you to start every skill player on the Lions, and almost every one of them scored a touchdown. Gibbs had 1, Montgomery 2, Goff 4, St. Brown 2. Even Williams had a touchdown and over 100 yards. Even Brock Wright got a touchdown, which I suggest you do pick up this week. Now, unfortunately, he only had that one target, finished with 7.5 PPR, but, he got a touchdown. Thank you. This game got out of hand early. The Lions kept their key guys playing into the fourth, which I was kind of surprised by. Thankfully, we didn't take any more injuries off that. Now, the Jags, they had very little positives in the game. ETN, I said, was a huge risk, and he got the touches, but he had less than 7 points PPR. That's bad. Brian Thomas had a decent day due to garbage time. He went 5 for 82. Ingram had his normal 6 to 9 targets. He had 7, but he only caught 5 for 28, so pretty bad week. Now, the Jags have a bye week next week, and they'll probably get Bigsby back, but if they don't get Lawrence back, this team is going to continue to produce bad weeks. All right, in the Packers-Bears game, Vegas was right. This was a low-scoring game, and Green Bay did everything they could to lose it. Yeah, pathetic. Seriously, just blocking that field goal at the end, it just looked like the Denver Chiefs game last week. Anyway, Love was supposedly healthy, but he continued to make bad decisions. He almost cost the game with that red zone interception early in the game. He finished with 261, 1-1, and he had a touchdown on the ground too, that of course he vultured from Jacobs. Now Jacobs, who I said was a premium start this week, he still got his touchdown. He finished with 76 on the ground, 4 for 58 in the air. That's a really nice PPR day. So Jacobs, premium start. For the wideouts, Reed got the touchdown, but only got 2 catches for like 23. Watson, he got all the yards. He went 4 catches for 150. Kraft, he had a goose egg, unfortunately, and the rest of the receiving core was less than 40 yards combined. So it was basically Watson or nobody. The Bears, they played really tough on defense after the embarrassment last week. They showed life on offense, which was awesome. Apparently, the new offensive coordinator knows what to do. I was actually stunned because Caleb Williams didn't make any mistakes, but he also didn't get a touchdown, proving he's still unstartable. Swift had 16 touches in the game. He went 71 yards for a touchdown, but he only caught 2 for 13 in the air. That's normal for him. Still a nice day. Now, once again, we didn't see an alpha emerge in the wide receiver core. Dunze led in targets. He caught 6 for 65. DJ Moore had a decent day, 7 for 62. And Allen had 4 for 41. The biggest surprise was the involvement of Rashawn Johnson, who's usually involved in the goal line, but he had 10 carries and a touchdown plus a catch, and he looked stronger than Swift, although endgame, Swift had that really nice run for a touchdown that basically almost won the game for them. Okay, we're going to finish up the NFC North, and we're going to talk about the Vikings-Titans game. Yeah, I know Darnold had a great day. All right, go ahead. Tell me about it. 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a touchdown on the ground that he vultured from Jones. All right, 3-touchdown game. I give him credit. He still didn't look that good, honestly. Aaron Jones, rough day. 15 carries, 39 yards, and only 1 catch. Akers came in for 10 rushes for 25 and 2 touchdowns. So that timeshare is not good for either owner of either one of those running backs. Like I said, Darnold had 18 yards on the ground and a touchdown. His passing production mostly went to Jefferson, 6 for 81 on the catch there. Jefferson, no touchdown. Addison caught the only touchdown. It was basically a busted coverage. 3 for 61 is how he finished with that touchdown. And then TJ caught 2 for 13. The rest of the wide receivers got nothing. It was really the fact that Tennessee has no offense with Levis is why they had so much success today. Levis, his stats, yeah, they look a little bit gaudy, but that's because he had a 98-yard touchdown Pereira to Ikine. Levis finished with 295, 1-1, but you take away that bomb, and he is just terrible. Pollard and Spears, they redefine terrible, but that's only because they have Levis as a quarterback because he can't move the ball. Ikine led everyone with 2 for 117 and a touchdown. Nice work on that big touchdown. Ridley, only 4 for 58, so that's a bad day. And then everyone else was really unremarkable. If Levis continues to start like this, Pollard, Spears, they're not going to be startable moving forward unless they have the right matchup. Ikine, this was a fluke game. And then Ridley, he's going to get his, but he's going to have these weeks where he doesn't perform and doesn't get a touchdown for you. That's the Levis world we live in. Moving on to the Raiders versus the Dolphins, I thought this game was going to be ugly. It was. There wasn't a whole lot of defense. I expected there to be more here. The Dolphins win by almost 2 touchdowns. Tua had 3 touchdowns for 288 yards passing. Really nice day. He hit Jonnu Smith for 2 touchdowns. Jonnu Smith went 6 for 101. Tyreek Hill, 7 for 61 and a touchdown. Really nice job. Waddle continues to fall to the wayside. 2 catches for 37. A-Chain, I said he was going to have a big week. He did. We went 17 rushes for 73 and a touchdown. He didn't get it vultured, which was good. On the flip side, the Raiders, Minshew had a little magic in him. He went 282 for 2 touchdowns and an interception, but he really couldn't find anyone other than Bowers. Now, Bowers had a monster game, 13 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Broke a rookie record. Congratulations to you. But for the rest of the team, Myers, 4 for 28. Madison, who barely plays, 3 for 50. I mean, seriously, it was just all over the mat. Nobody really had any ability to run the ball today. White, Madison, Abdullah, these guys are not startable in your lineups. They are way too inconsistent, just like we talked about. They're touchdown-dependent plays, and none of them got that today. In the Rams-Patriots game, I said this was going to be a close game and it's going to become a shock to most, and it was. The Pats are a wild card. They can keep it close, and May had a really nice day. He went 282 with 2 touchdowns and an interception, and then he had 27 rushes on the ground. He did lose a fumble, but a strong day for May. He found Henry 6 times for 63 yards. He found Kendrick Bourne 5 times for 70 yards and a touchdown, and he led the team. And then Douglas had 5 for 49. Even Hooper got 4 for 35. Booty went 4 for 33. So he found a lot of guys. He was throwing the ball quite a bit. 40 attempts, completing 30 of them. So nice work there. Stevenson got his 20 attempts. Only 73 yards on the ground. 4 catches for 16, but didn't get any touchdowns, unfortunately. So the only touchdowns today went to Bourne and Lowe, who only had 1 catch. On the flip side, the Rams, they went to their key players, as always. Nakua, Kupp, Kyron Williams, they had big days. Williams went 15 rushes for 86, but he didn't catch any balls. So that's a bummer, and he didn't get a touchdown. So subpar performance there for Williams, but he still looks strong on the ground. Nakua caught 7 for 123 and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp was huge, 6 for 106 and 2 touchdowns. And then Parkinson had a really nice touchdown, though it was only a catch of the day. Stafford finishes with 4 touchdowns and 295 yards. Huge game, just like we talked about it, but the Pats kept it close. They had a chance at the end. In the Saints-Browns game, whoa, it was all about Taysom Hill in this game. The Carr had a nice day. I told you he would. He went 248 yards for 2 touchdowns, and he had 8 yards on the ground. But it was all about Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill had 7 rushes for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lost a fumble, but then he caught 8 for 50 yards. And, oh, by the way, he threw 2 passes. Okay, one of them was an interception. Whatever. Again, monster day, 40 points PPR plus for Taysom Hill. Kamara, 16 rushes for 67, caught 4 for 22. No touchdowns for him. The rest of the tight ends got in the mix, with Johnson getting one of the touchdowns from Carr today. Other than that, again, it was the Taysom Hill show. On the Browns side, I told you Winston was going to throw the ball. 395 yards and 2 touchdowns, 142 yards, 6 receptions to Judy, who got 11 targets and a touchdown. I told you Judy was going to push for a lot of targets today. Tillman had 8 targets, but only 3 catches for 47. That was a disappointment. Elijah Moore, welcome back. 6 catches for 66 and a touchdown. And then Njoku, he actually was second in targets. He caught all 9 of his targets for 81. So a really strong day there. The big surprise was Nick Chubb. Only got 11 rushes for 50 yards and no catches. He looks slow. He looks like that knee injury really affected his burst of speed. I would say if you're starting him moving forward, he's touchdown dependent and he's not going to give you big weeks. Ford got in there with 4 catches for 29 and actually had more points PPR than Nick Chubb. That is a concern. Okay, let's talk about what could be the most disappointing game of the day. And oh, by the way, probably the end of the Rodgers era. And we're talking about the Jets and the Colts. Now, I didn't think Richardson was going to be that good in this game. What he ended up doing to be successful is vulturing all of Taylor's touchdowns. Every time they got inside the 5, Richardson took it upon himself, as he always does, to get his. He's a selfish player. 10 rushes for 32 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 fumbles, one of which he lost. Passing, he had 272 and a touchdown. He looked good, but taking those touchdowns from the rest of your players just looks selfish. JT, because of that, had a horrible day. 24 rushes, 57 yards, and he didn't even catch but 1 ball. So that's a really bad day for a guy that good. Now, I told you Downs and Pierce were his number 1 and number 2 targets. Downs had 5 catches for 84 and a touchdown, so great day. Pierce, only 3 for 74. Pittman had the most targets, but he only caught 5 for 46, and then the rest of the team was unremarkable. On the flip side, the Jets, I said Rodgers was going to have a decent day with 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. He got 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. He looked really bad. He looked slow. His mobility is gone. He's talking about playing another year. Bro, just retire and get like a $400 million contract like Brady did and talk about it. It's over. Breece Hall looked good. 16 rushes for 78 yards and a touchdown. I think they need to give him the ball more. Adams led in yards with 72 on 6 catches, but no touchdowns. Breece Hall got a touchdown through the air. He caught 7 for 43, so he had a really strong day. And then Garrett Wilson led in targets, but only caught 4 for 18. Rough day. I think moving forward, with the Jets coming up and they got a bye, I could see maybe Rodgers playing out the rest of the season. Breece Hall still getting his, but they're going to try to test Braylon Allen a little bit more. And maybe Breece Hall takes a seat. They need to see what they've got with Braylon Allen because the Jets are out of the playoffs. Now let's talk about the Ravens-Steelers game. This was a huge disappointment. A lot of skill players came up empty. We'll start off with Pittsburgh. Wilson was 205 yards and an interception. Just downright awful. Najee Harris, 18 rushes for 63 yards, no touchdowns. He did catch 4 for 30 to save a mediocre PPR day. Warren mixed in with 4 catches for 27 and 9 rushes for 41. He looked healthy again. Muth, 2 for 14, not so good. Pickens led everyone with 12 targets, catching 8 for 89. Again, no touchdowns there, and that was pretty much it. On the flip side, the Ravens, Jackson had a rough day. 270 yards and a touchdown and an interception. Henry, he got his 13 rushes for 65 and a touchdown. He did lose a fumble. That was bad. Jackson had 46 on the ground to match that as well. In the battle of who could catch what, Likely led everyone with 4 catches for 75. Flowers caught the late touchdown, 2 for 39 and a touchdown for him. And then Andrews disappointed with 2 for 22. Overall, terrible if you've got any of these players on your team, except for Pickens and Henry. Okay, moving into the late window, let's talk Falcons-Broncos first. What a beatdown. I told you Denver's defense is legit, and wow, did they show it. Now, granted, Mooney got hurt early, and that really impacted everything. London got a lot more looks that way, but I think the Falcons had a tough time moving the ball. I told you they would stop the run, and boy, did they ever. I also said that Nix and Sutton are must-starts in this contest. Nix, 307 yards and 4 touchdowns, plus another 5 on the ground. Wow, huge. Sutton, he led the team, 8 targets, 7 receptions for 78. He didn't get any of the touchdowns, though. That went to Humphrey, Mims, Franklin, and Adkins, who didn't really have huge days. Humphrey went 4 for 52, but these aren't guys that you normally play. I said Vele is a possible desperation option if you needed somebody. He caught 4 for 66 in a PPR. That's 10.6. I mean, if you're desperate, 10.6 is pretty good. That's better than a lot of key starters this week. For the running backs, though, this was weird. Javonte Williams, he went 9 for 59 and a touchdown. He looked huge. For some odd reason, the coaching staff was pumping up Estime the whole time this week, but he only had 6 rushes for 16 yards. He caught 3 for 9. Not even palatable as like a 5 to 6 point PPR. I don't even know why they were pumping him up. On the flip side, the Falcons, wow, could it be any worse? Cousins, 173 yards and an interception. Bijan Robinson, 12 rushes for 35. He just couldn't get through that defensive line. Drake London, 7 targets, but only 3 catches for 61. Because Mooney went out of the game, McLeod was the benefactor, catching 6 for 46. So he essentially led the team from a PPR perspective. The rest of the team had a terrible day. In the Seahawks 49ers game, wow, this was a complete reversal as a few weeks ago. So the Niners host the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks come in there and whoop them. Now, I know it's an NFC West rematch. I know they're in the division. It's going to be tough, but CMC, man, where'd you go, bro? He couldn't do anything against this team. He had 19 rushes for 79, no touchdowns, caught 4 for 27. But this is a bad day if you're a CMC owner. Garendo and Mason had way more success against these guys. I don't get it. Purdy, he kind of looked like he was in all about me mode. He only had 159 yards passing on a touchdown and an interception. And then he rushed a touchdown, which should have been McCaffrey's. So we totally stole that from him. And then his only target really was Jennings. Jennings had 11 targets, 10 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Huge game for him. Debo, 4 catches for 22. And then Sauber, 1 for 7. It was pathetic. They couldn't move the ball. Seattle's defense looked elite. And I have no idea why, because they're really not. Geno Smith, 221 yards, no touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. I give him that, 29 yards on the ground. Walker also had a touchdown, 54 yards on the ground for him. But it was really the Smith and Jigba night. 10 catches for 110 yards, and then he had a rush for 8. So a really big PPR night for him. Metcalf added 7 for 70. Lockett was basically not there at 2 for 19. Walker had a couple of catches as well. All right, let's talk about the Chiefs and the Bills, baby. The Chiefs go down. No more ref help. They're not going to get a blocked field goal. These guys have got a loss, and they should have had 2 more besides that. Whatever. No longer the best team in the NFL. It's the Lions. I could say it 10 more times. I don't care if you get angry. The Chiefs are not the best team in the NFL. The Bills' high-powered offense against the KC's defense. Boy, the KC defense, they really didn't show up in this one. The Bills had a huge day. Started with Allen. 40 attempts in this one, 260 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. But it was his rushing that really hurt them. 55 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Cook, he only got 9 rushes for 20 yards, but he got 2 touchdowns. So Allen didn't vulture it all. So Cook had a great day. Also caught 5 for 7 yards, which is like 1.3 a catch. Yikes. But hey, if you're in a PPR league, that's awesome. I told you that Shakir would probably be the target hog. He was. 12 targets, 8 catches for 70. But Samuel was the benefactor of the only touchdown. Caught 5 for 58. Cooper, welcome back. I think he played with a cast. Only caught 2 for 55. And then Knox, like we talked about with Kincaid out. Knox is a decent pickup. He caught 4 for 40. 8 points PPR. Not great, but not terrible there. For the Chiefs, Mahomes, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Hunt, 60 yards on the ground, no touchdown. For the first time, I have no idea why, since game 1, Worthy was the target. 5 targets, 4 catches for 61 in a touchdown. That happened in like the first quarter. And then he didn't look to him the rest of the game. Probably why they lost. Hopkins caught 3 for 29. And then Noah Gray, 4 catches, 23 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's like he didn't even look at Kelsey. I don't know. Maybe Taylor Swift said something during halftime he didn't like, but Kelsey was a ghost in this game. Again, probably another reason why they lost here. Mahomes showed his inaccuracy, bad interceptions, and he just couldn't get it done. The Bills were able to overwhelm him, and they scored more points, and that's how you beat the KC. And last but certainly not least, one of the best games of the week, the Chargers-Bengals Sunday Night Football. Wow. I thought this was going to be more of a defensive battle, especially the Chargers should be able to hold them, but they couldn't. The Bengals, Burrow, he had 3 touchdowns, 356 yards passing, most of it to Higgins. who caught 9 for 148 and a touchdown. Chase, 7 catches, 75, and 2 touchdowns. And then Chase Brown, 86 yards on the ground, 57 through the air for 5 catches, a huge PPR day. He didn't get a touchdown, but boy, the Bengals put up some numbers against the Chargers, which was pretty surprising for me. On the other side, Herbert, he had a nice night, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 65 yards on the ground and a fumble, but he was pretty dominating. He missed a lot in the later half of the game, but then in the fourth quarter, found some big throws to McConkey, who had 6 catches for 123 yards. He looks awesome. If he can hit him in stride, he's really dominant. Disley, he had 80 yards on 4 catches and a touchdown. Quentin Johnston, remember that guy I told you he's good for a touchdown? 2 receptions, 48 yards and a touchdown. He just finds the end zone, and Herbert always looks at him. Dobbins was dominant. He led in rushes, 11 for 56, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. Edwards only had 6 rushes for 27 yards, and he didn't even have a catch. Dobbins had 1 catch. Really, they just don't dump off the ball to the running backs there. But huge night for the Chargers, but first time they give up more than 20 points. And there's your Week 11 recap. Still got Monday Night Football, so you still got a chance to win if you're behind. Hope you had a good weekend. As always, we'll end it by giving a shout out to our men and women in uniform who protect the freedoms we hold dear. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay up to date on our latest content. And until then, remember, established dominance isn't just a catchphrase, it's a commitment. Are you ready?